Okay, this is an easy assignment right here. Solve the equation. You don't have to do all that factoring crap, okay? You do not on this. This is to set you up. This isn't really like stuff you're tested over, but it's to make things easier down the road. Okay, it's already been factored out into pieces. You already have all your F's, okay? Now, here's how many answers. What power is that x to? It's to the first, so one answer from that. What power is that x to? The second. Two answers will come from that. What power is that x to? Just the first, one answer. What power is that to? Just the first, so one answer. So you're like, man, that seems crappy. Well, it's really not. First off, this 5 out here has an x, so it gets a parentheses. So that's F1, F2, F3, F4. Now you're like, well, I thought I needed 5 answers. You just have 4 factors. I know, but this has a second power, so 2 answers are going to come from that. Okay, so let's look at F1. 5x equals 0. Easy to solve. So divide by 5, and that is 0. So I can cross that out. F2, x to the second power minus 3. Okay, we need to add the 3 to both sides. So x to the second power is 3. Then we need to find the square root of 3. Okay. It's a decimal, so on this assignment, if it's a decimal, what I need you to do is just write square root 3 and square root 3 with a negative in front, because that's 2 answers, okay? Because remember, square root has 2 answers, the positive and the negative. So x equals, because those undo each other, plus or minus, and then we're just going to, if it's not a perfect square today, we're just going to keep it in its square root. Besides, you couldn't do the 2 square roots anyway because it doesn't divide by anything. Okay, F3, so we can cross out that. Remember, I got 2 answers from that. A positive and a negative of the same thing. X plus 4 equals 0. Get negative 4, so that's your next answer. X minus 4 equals 0. Positive 4. Just like I suspected, I have all the answers I want. Okay, next one. Is that x to the first? Yep. What power is that x to the first, and to the second? All right, now that has an x, so parenthesize that. That's F1, F2, F3, F4. Now I know there's 5 answers, but you're going to get 2 from this one. Let's actually do that one first. Let's do the second. The ones that have second powers, let's figure those out first, because the rest of these are easy. Let's do the hard one first. X to the second plus 18 equals 0. So we need to minus 18. Then we need to square root both sides. So x equals plus minus. Now, once again, if you try to square root negative 18 on the calculator, you get domain error. That's because if you have a negative and a square root, you need to make it positive and put an I outside. Okay? All right, no, I changed my mind actually, since this assignment is pretty easy. Go back and find something here. Okay, so I can square root 18, then I get a decimal. But if I get a really long decimal like that, I want you to make the 2 square roots. Okay, break it up into 2 square roots. Now 18 is between what 2 digits here? These 2. So 18 divided by 16 is just going to be a decimal. 18 divided by 9 is okay, good. So 9 and 2. And then you replace 9 with its equal, which is 3. and you put 3 with the square root of 2 next to it, but you got to get the I in because you had a negative there. Anytime you end up with a negative under a square root, you should automatically put I. And if that square roots into a decimal, I want it done. I want that strategy used. So that is 2 answers, 3i square root of 2 and negative 3i square root of 2. All right, cross that out. Got my 2 answers from there. This has 1 answer. It's really easy to find. You just divide by negative 6. There's no adding or subtracting on that one, so that's 0. Okay, we have this. X minus 5 is 0. So plus 5, x is 5. And we have this one, x plus 5 equals 0. And I get negative 5. So again, where I have the x is second, there's 2 answers. You can just isolate the x is second, but if you have a negative under the square root, I, and then if the square root's an irrational decimal that never ends, I want it done with these 2 things. All right, next up. There's an x to the first, so just 1. There's an x to the first, just 1. And that's an x to the second, so there would be 2 answers. Okay, let's do the x to the second first. You want to parenthesize that f1, f2, f3. Okay, so let's do the x to the second first, because that's the hardest one. X second plus 9, it's 1 with the most work. So minus 9, and now you have to undo the second power with a square root. So x equals positive negative. You got a negative, so you need to extract the I. Now, 9's on the list, so it right there is equal to 3. So you don't have to do the double square root, you just put 3, but make sure you get the I down, okay? So 3i and negative 3i, those have 2 answers, just opposites of one another. Okay, so we can cross that out. So 2x can equal 0, so divide by 2. That's 0. Cross that out, and then x minus 5 could equal 0. And I get 5. I'm not done yet. I'm gonna keep going. Okay. All right, next problem. To the first power, so 1 answer. That's to the second, so that will get 2 answers. And that's the second, so that's going to get 2 answers. So when I wrap this up, there's only going to be 3 factors, but I can get 2 answers from here and 2 answers from here. So let's do this one first. X second minus 8 equals 0. So you undo the minus 8 by adding 8. You undo the second power with a square root. So x could be plus minus. We don't need to do the I because it's not negative. Okay. But 8's not on the list, so we need to be doing the double square roots and see what 8 will divide by, because it's 8 between these two, and it better divide by 4. It's 2, I'm just showing you. So 4 and 2. Replace the first square root with its equal, which is regular 2. So I put regular 2, square root 2. And I never had to use the I here because I didn't square root a negative number. Okay, that was positive. So 2 square root 2, and then 2 square root 2 with the negative in front. Okay, cross that out. Now let's do the other x to the second that we have. So x to the second plus 5 equals 0. Undo the plus 5 by minusing 5. Undo the second power with a square root. So x equals, we have a negative, so it's plus minus, but when we have the negative, we need to extract the I. And then 5's not on the list. And 5 is between these two. Well, I don't believe 5 is divisible by 4. It's a decimal. So what I do is I just put the 5 with its square root. Okay. Put the I outside because you had to use I. So I have I square root 5 and I square root 5 with the negative. Okay. And then 3x equals 0. Divide by 3, and it's just 0. Okay, that's not a lot of work, but you got to watch out for those second powers. Okay.